Hello, my name's Steve Spiehhager, and I thought I'd try this little tutorial that might be of help to some of you anyway. The some of you might be those who produce a periodic video that has some certain elements that are same. It makes me think of a podcast, for example, or in my case, what I do is I record a chapter of the Bible every day, which I post on Facebook, YouTube, and various other social media. And since most of the content of that is the same, the process and workflow that I use is something that makes the whole process a little bit easier. And perhaps if you do something similar, you might get a tip or so from here. So I hope this may in some way be helpful to you. To start out with, as we look at our screen on DaVinci Resolve here, you will find this is the timeline of the most recent scripture that I recorded, which is Luke chapter 16. What I'm going to do is going to record another chapter as a part of this tutorial. I'm making it a short chapter so that the content won't cause the process to drag on and on here, and so that we will be able to show this process and do it fairly quickly for you and let you pick up on things that might be helpful to you. I'm in the Edit tab of DaVinci Resolve, and I have the Media Pool open over on the left. I have the Inspector open on the right, and right now up here you see Luke 16, which is the timeline of the most recent recording that I made. What I want to do first of all is I want to duplicate this timeline and use it as the basis for the next recording that I'm going to make. So first of all, I want to go over to the SmartBins timelines. If you don't see SmartBins on your machine, you can go up here to this little three dots, and down here is a thing that said Show SmartBins. Make sure that's checked. And then one of the default SmartBins is showing all of the timelines. So let's take the Luke 16 timeline right here, and then let me right-click on it and go down and duplicate timeline. So now, if you can see on your screens, I hope, but if not, it says Luke 16 copy, a new timeline, which is an exact copy of this one. Well, that's a starting point that we're going to use, and so what I want to do now is I want to click on that, and I'm going to rename it. I'm going to call it Psalm 1. E-S-A-L-M space 1. And then hit Enter. Now we have a new duplicate of Luke 16 timeline, but it says Psalm 1. So let's go put it up where we can see it. Go up here to the top where it says Luke 16, drop that down, and here we go with Psalm 1. So we go there, and it looks just like Luke 16 did because it is still just a copy of that. So what I want to do is remove all of the elements from Luke 16 so that we can record the new chapter on this timeline. So first of all, I'm going to highlight this top row. It says Subtitle, and that's an interesting feature that we'll get into later. It's kind of an amazing feature of DaVinci Resolve, but these are all the subtitles for Luke 16, so obviously we don't want them. So I've drug across there by left-clicking and dragging across, highlighting all of them in red, and then I'll hit the backspace key, and they go away. Now, I use the backspace key instead of delete. I tried to use delete once, and it does some funny stuff that I don't fully understand. So I found out the delete key does what I want it to. Now I'm going to go down on these audio tracks here, the one called narration and the one called background music. I've highlighted all of those, and I'm going to hit the delete key as well. Actually, I'm going to hit the backspace key, like I told you before. And now we've gotten rid of the subtitles, we've gotten rid of the narration and the background music audio files, and all we have left now is this background video file. Now we got one problem with it yet. It still says Luke 16, so we're going to have to fix that. And by fixing that, I click on that file, and I go over to the Fusion tab, and that's where I do all of the special effects on this background. Now, there's not a lot of special effects here. There is the background video, which says God's Word for You, and this little block here. Then we've added text on top of that says Luke 16. And then as the video progresses across, you will find little gold-colored blobs that kind of come in and fade in and out kind of at random places around there, just to make the background a little bit more interesting. I'm not going to change any of that, but obviously I need to change Luke 16 to Psalm 1. So I'll click down on this node here that says Chapter, and I'll go over to the inspector. It says Luke 16. So I'm going to highlight that, and I'm going to do Psalm 1. S-A-L-M space 1. And you see it changes on the graphic there as well. So I've got that done, and I just go back over to the Edit tab, and that is now shows Psalm 1 where Luke 16 had been. So next I want to take the cursor back to the beginning, which I can do with this thing here, or I can hit the Home key on my keyboard. And now I want to go over to another tab here in DaVinci Resolve. It's called Fairlight. Now, Fairlight is not a very descriptive name because that is the tab similar to Adobe Audition and other places where the audio work is done. When I open that up, you'll see that I have two audio tracks here. They're pretty big. This one says Narration, and A2 down here says Background Music. Well, I'm going to record on the narration track. So what I need to do is I need to arm that track for record. So I go up here, and there's an arm for record button, which I press, and it now is recording, and you can see the audio bouncing there, ready to record. And then eventually I'll come up here and hit this record button, and I'll record the chapter. Now I'm going to go to down here to a chapter that I have called up on a browser page, and I'm going to bring it up. Psalm 70, I don't want that. What I want to do is have Psalm 1. Now I think this thing is going to mess up on me here because of the... No, it didn't. Good. So I've got Psalm 1 here, and just a few verses of that. So I'm going to, excuse me, clear my throat and try to record that. I will probably make some mistakes along the line because I always do, particularly on longer chapters, but I hope I do, and I may even fake a mistake or two so that I can illustrate the editing process here as well. So I'm ready to record. I'm going to click the record button. I'm going to go for it here. Of course, that caused my thing to disappear. So I'm recording now. Oh, the joys of those who do not follow the advice of the wicked, or stand around with sinners, or join in with mockers. But they delight in the law of the Lord, meditating on it day and night. They're like trees. They are like trees planted along the riverbank, bearing fruit. They are like trees planted along the riverbank, bearing fruit each season. Their leaves never wither, and they prosper in all they do. But not the wicked. They are like worthless chaff scattered by the wind. They will be condemned at the time of judgment. Sinners will have no place among the godly. For the Lord watches over the path of the godly, but the path of the wicked leads to... For the Lord watches over the path of the godly, but the path of the wicked leads to destruction. Okay, we're done recording that, so I can come up here now and hit the stop button. Of course, I recorded all that extra stuff at the beginning and at the end, so we'll need to get rid of that as well. But now that I've gotten rid of that, I'm going to see that we have this audio track that runs across here, along with the mistakes that I made, so forth. So we are going to fix those now before we go back to the Edit tab. So first of all, what I want to do is, with regard to levels, I'm going to right-click on this audio file, and I'm going to drop down to Normalize Audio Levels. I'll click on that, and there are several options that you can use, a lot of numbers and letters and stuff that represent different types of normalization. Since primarily this goes to YouTube, I'm going to click on the YouTube normalization thing, and then I'm going to click on the button that says Normalize. And you see the volume went up just a little bit. You probably noticed that the waveform got just a little bit taller. So that is the normalization that now has taken place. So let me turn up my volume so I can hear just a little bit as we go along. And I'll kill the record enable. It doesn't matter, but in case you'd accidentally push the wrong button up here, you would end up recording over the top of what you did. So let me start here. Well, I'll start back at the beginning. Of course, that caused my thing to disappear. So I'm recording now. Oh, the joy. Okay. First of all, you'll hear a little bit of feedback here because a microphone is up so that I can hear the volume playing back. And so there'll be a little bit of echo on my audio on my microphone as I'm talking here. First of all, I need to blow this up a little bit. I see a transient here before I start talking. I've got my hotkeys set up. If I hit alternate key and rotate the mouse, center mouse wheel on my thing, I can blow this up on my mouse. And I see we've got a transient here. Oh. So I'm going to start right there, and then I'm set up on my hotkeys for Control B to cut the audio file right there. So I'm going to click on that, click on the first part that I obviously don't want, and I'll hit the delete key. So now we're ready to begin, and we'll just see how far I go before I make a mistake. Oh, the joys of those who do not follow the advice of the wicked, or stand around with sinners, or join in with mockers. But they delight in the law of the Lord, meditating on it day and night. They're like trees. They are like trees. Okay, there I kind of bumbled a little bit. So I'm going to cut right before my mistake, Control B. I'm going to go and where I picked it up again and hit a Control B there. Then I'm going to highlight that section in between and hit delete. And now it takes out the stumbling, and let's see how that works. Day and night. They are like trees planted along the riverbank, bearing fruit. They are like trees planted. Okay, I bumbled again. They are like, yeah. So I had another section there that was bad, so I'm going to take it out. Go about there, Control B, select the section and delete. Now maybe we're back in business again here. Let's see. Day and night. They are like trees planted along the riverbank, bearing fruit each season. Their leaves never wither, and they prosper in all they do. But not the wicked. They are like worthless chaff scattered by the wind. They will be condemned at the time of judgment. Sinners will have no place among the godly. For the Lord watches over the path of the godly, but the path of the wicked leads to... Okay, another bumble. Let's see where I pick it up here. For the Lord watches over. For the Lord watches over. For the Lord. There we go. A whole section that I messed up. Control B. Go over here. Control B. Highlight the section and delete it. Let's see how we did there. Godly. For the Lord watches over the path of the godly, but the path of the wicked leads to destruction. Okay, we're done. All right, that was the end of the chapter, and I've got this stuff here at the end. Leave me a little space at the end, and Control B, and I'll delete the rest of it. And now, my keyboard is set up Shift Z. Well, supposedly here, Shift Z. For some reason or other, let's see. Not doing what I expected to do. I'm going to hit the Home key. Shift Z. Oh, I know what the problem is. This is a very, very short section compared to the edit page. So let me go over to the edit page and we'll see. Yeah, Luke 16 was a really long chapter, and this is a really short one. So you see the background extends way, way beyond where the it's needed for this thing. So I'm going to grab the end of this background and drag it a little bit closer to the end. Now I can do my Shift Z, and it will fill out the whole timeline with just the content that we have. I'm going to let this background extend just a little bit beyond the end of the that for now. I'm going to put my cursor there, and I'm going to take a look and see how long this is. And I look up here at the top, and it is only 37 seconds long. Yeah, that was a short one, all right. So we'll be able to get this done fairly quickly here now. So The next thing to do, and this is what I consider the most amazing thing about DaVinci Resolve. This happens to be the Studio Edition. This is the paid version, and this is not available on the free version. I'm going to turn that mic down so I'm not echoing there, basically. But this will take my voice that I recorded, and it will generate captions. They will be properly punctuated, and, well, it's just amazing. And so let me show you this process here. It happens very quickly, as a matter of fact. Again, I've got a hotkey set up, Alt-S, and that brings up the... Okay, that's interesting. That's not doing what it's supposed to. So let's see if I can do it otherwise. Timeline. Let me go down here. Create subtitles from audio. Alt-S didn't work for me for some reason or other. So I'll click on that, and it brings up this dialog box. A couple of things not important to you necessarily, but I limit the length of my lines to 40 characters, which I seem to have trouble. I'll just type it in. And 40 characters per line, all of this sort of thing, just some general setup there. But now I'm going to hit Create, and let's watch and see what happens. Initializing, it says. Analyzing as we watch it progress. There we go. Okay, now we see captions there on the top line, captions that have been generated not from the script that I read, but just from my voice. Now, these are usually amazingly accurate. However, occasionally, especially with a long chapter of biblical names, which I try to pronounce phonetically, but it can kind of get messed up with that. And every once in a while something goes wrong, but the accuracy is absolutely incredible. So now, before we go and preview all of this, I want to add the background music. If you'll recall, we looked up here and said it's only 37 seconds long. I've got a whole collection of video background music up here. Most of it is a lot longer than that. However, down here on some new stuff that I did recently, there is one that is 51 seconds long. So that's about the shortest one that I've got. So I'm going to grab it and drag it down here on that second line. Now, what I always like to do is I always like the music to end where the music ends, and I'd rather fade up in the middle of a selection of music than I would fade out in the middle of a section of music at the end of the piece. So what I want to do is I'm going to match up the end with the end of my thing and then shorten it. I'm going to shorten it right now, and then work it back at the beginning and fade in at the beginning. Now I notice this music looks pretty soft, so I'm going to right-click on it and I'm going to normalize it too. I'm going to normalize audio levels, again using the YouTube parameters. Click on Normalize. Now you can see that perked up quite a bit as far as volume is concerned. So now that's got a long fade out on it, but I'll just do it that way. Now I'm going to go here and make sure the ends are matched up well. And I'm going to click there, put my cursor on the end, and with my Alt mouse wheel, I'm going to zoom in there. That fade in is pretty long, or fade out is pretty long, so I'm going to grab this clip and I'm going to take it back quite a ways there and then bring that thing out to the end. And then I'm going to use this little fade tab here to kind of fade the music out towards the end anyway. And then I'm going to hit the home button on my keyboard, go back to the beginning. There's the music. I've shortened it. So I'm going to drag it back to the beginning. And I'm going to magnify it a little bit more with the alternate and the mouse wheel. Drag, make sure that's dragged clear back to the beginning. Then this little fade bar here on the background music, I'm going to drag it so that it fades in as as the narration starts. So now we are ready to preview it. We're getting close to the end here. We're ready to preview the whole thing, and again, mostly to check the captions, but also to kind of check the balance between the audio levels of the narration as well as the background music. So I'm back here at the beginning, and I'm going to hit the play button, and I'm going to mute my microphone for a second as we're listening so I can turn my volume up just a little bit. Oh, the joys of those who do not follow the advice of the wicked, or stand around with sinners, or join in with mockers. Back on, found the first error there with the, and I'm glad there's a few so I can illustrate how to do that. Mongers, fishmongers, no, we're talking about mockers. And I may have just not pronounced that quite distinctly enough, and it got the wrong impression there. So I click on that particular caption, go over here to the inspector, and there is the caption that's on that particular line. So I'm going to change that. Mockers, M-O-C-K-E-R-S, and period. Now I'm going to back up a little bit, hit the thing running. I'm going to condense this timeline down just a little bit because it doesn't have to be so. Around with sinners. Oh, got to turn my volume up. Sinners, or join in with mockers. But they delight in the law of the Lord, meditating on it day and night. They are like trees planted along the riverbank, bearing fruit each season. Their leaves never wither, and they prosper in all they do. But not the wicked. They are like worthless chaff scattered by the wind. They will be condemned at the time of judgment. Sinners will have no place among... That's interesting. Mongers again. I don't know what that is. That's kind of unusual for it to mess up like that anyway. Sinners will have no place. And also, you'll notice down here, here's where the audio starts for that particular caption, and the caption comes in late. So I'm going to grab the edge of this and drag it back just a little bit, get it to start earlier. Now back up a ways, hit this running again. They will be condemned at the time of judgment. Sinners will have no place among the godly. For the Lord watches over the path of the godly, but the path of the wicked leads to destruction. Fading out and ending. So now I can turn my volume down so that I'm listening to, and we'll go back to the... Now I'm going to do Control Z, or actually Shift Z to give me the whole timeline there, which is a pretty short one. But now we've previewed it, and we're ready to send it forth into the hyperspace here, cyberspace. So I'm going to go over what they call the Deliver tab here, and on DaVinci Resolve, and I'm going to do Shift Z again a couple of times. There we go. That gives us the whole thing out there. And what we need to do, there's my Luke 16 package that I delivered before. I'm going to get rid of it so we have no jobs in the render queue. And then I've got a custom setting over here called SOAP Bible Readings, which presets a bunch of stuff here that I don't need to change every time. So the title of this one is Psalm 1, P-S-A-L-M 1. And it goes on my drive to R, Scripture Reading Videos, R drive. So that's set up already. The rest of this stuff won't go into necessarily. These are kind of presets that YouTube likes. So I'll scroll down a ways and a couple of other things that we need to look at. Down here where it says Subtitle Settings, I'm going to click on that. And there are several options. You can have captions that are not revealed, in other words, closed captions that can show up when people select them. But I want these captions burned into the video. So that's the option I have selected of those, burn into video. Then down here are YouTube settings. and upload directly to YouTube. That's a process that I can do here to my YouTube page for these scriptures, YouTube channel. And again, this is Psalm 1. And upload thumbnail. Now, here's something I didn't do before, and I should have, but I frequently forget this, so I'll go back and show you how it's done. I'm going to go back here to the edit page right now, pick a frame somewhere where there's no captioning in it, and then hopefully this will work. Control-Alt-S I have set up, and that opens up a thing where I store all of my thumbnails. So this is Psalm 1. It's got a bunch of other stuff there, but I just want it to be Psalm 1. So I'll hit delete and there. Actually, I want to change that because of the way the thing alphabetizes things. I'm going to redo it. I'm going to do Psalm 01. That way, when we get other psalms in there, Psalm 01, I'll delete that other one that I did later. Hit delete and hit enter. That saves a thumbnail, that saves a picture that you see on your screen there as a JPEG that I can upload as a thumbnail for YouTube. So I go over to the deliver page, then I go over upload thumbnail, then I select the path that it comes from. That's on my R drive, scripture reading videos, stills, and then Psalm 01. Scroll down here, got a bunch of things to scroll past. Got everything in alphabetical order though. There is Psalm 01 right there. So I'll click on that and open, and now that will pick that particular JPEG and send it up as a thumbnail to YouTube. So now we're ready to go. I can add to render queue, and then I'll go over here and click on render all. Now rendering is in process. This shouldn't take too long. I'll stop the video and start it up again if it takes too long, but we're already at 12, 13, 15, 17% as it's going through there. Of course, longer chapters take a lot longer to both render and upload. You'll notice things jerking around just a little bit there, but that's just a part of the compression process. It takes a frame and then renders a full frame, but then it just does differences between that for the next 8 or 10 or 15 frames, and then renders another one in full. We're just about done with the render process now, which means at that point the file will be on my computer on the R drive that I can use for other purposes later on. But 88, 90, 92, 93, 95, 99. Now it says uploading, so we'll wait a few minutes, and this shouldn't take too long, but we'll wait for it to be done. And once that turns green and says upload successful, there we go. Now it is up on YouTube and being processed by them and ready for distribution there, as well as to other platforms. So that was a process. Took me a little bit longer than I thought that it would, but I hope you found it helpful. No matter what editing platform you use, if you are producing shows that are similar other than varying different content, then you can kind of use some of these principles here. First of all, duplicating an old timeline and deleting the old material off of it that you don't need, making any changes on the titles and so forth that you need. Then recording the audio, editing the audio, going back to the Edit tab, and doing the rest of the process of doing the captioning, if that's what you want to do with your particular presentation. And then check everything out, make sure it's looking good by playing all of it back and watching it closely, then sending it over to the Deliver tab and rendering it, and then sending it to YouTube or other platforms that DaVinci allows you to use in sending your video out. So that's it. If you have any comments, I'd be interested in hearing them. If you have any suggestions, if you want to look deeper into that creation of that background and the Fusion tab and some other things that I kind of glossed over in the interest of brevity, feel free to let me know, and I'd be happy to put something together on that to kind of illustrate in a little more depth how that was done. So thanks for watching, and look forward to seeing you again in the future.